Thank you, Gareth. And I am delighted to be invited to present at this exciting CDO event. Thank you for asking me. My name is Craig Civil, and I am the Director of Data Science and AI at the BSI, the British Standards Institute, forever referred to as BSI throughout this presentation. And I have been asked to present on a topic very close to my heart, which is that I believe data is a force for good. So I'll spend the next 15 minutes or so, hopefully articulating why I believe data is a force for good, and share with you some of my experiences, some techniques that have worked for me, some techniques that haven't worked for me, in terms of how to build a data culture at your organization, and how you can then use those to build your data teams, of which I happen to have recent experience of building data science team. So topics will be, I'll share with you a couple of minutes about me and my data career and why I've been asked to speak to you right now, bit of self-reflection, and I explain why I've done some self-reflection lately. And then, as I say, we'll talk about culture and building teams. Okay, so about me. Why am I talking to you today? Well, I've had a 30-year career in a variety of data roles, ranging from earning my stripes as a database administrator on Sybase client server databases when they were a thing, to latterly managing data science and data innovation teams. And throughout that span of database administration to data innovation, there's been a wide variety of kind of data operational roles, business intelligence roles. And I've worked in a variety of organizations. I've worked in small startup organizations where it's myself and a colleague in a small room like this with a server by the side of me, building an organization up from scratch, organization called Health Dialogue, to large corporate organizations, the likes of Bupa and Lloyds, and of course now BSI. So, and also spanning public and private sector. I spent 15 years working for the National Health Service in England. So a lot of public sector experience versus also that private sector work as well. Worked in a wide diversity of industries. Healthcare, as I mentioned, healthcare both for the NHS in England, but also private medical healthcare with Bupa. So that moved me, when I was working with Bupa, that moved me into the world of insurance, and from insurance, from healthcare insurance, I moved into the fascinating world of complex specialist insurance with Lloyds, the insurance marketplace, and now I've moved into the world of assurance with the BSI, and just starting on my journey with that organisation. And I've worked in data teams, large and small, as you can imagine, from, if I've worked in, as I say, startups and large corporations. So a wide variety of experience in different roles, in different organisation types and in different industries, but always fundamentally using data in those roles, which means that, as I say, I believe, and I've seen data be a force for good. And I'd like to share some of those experiences with you right now. This next portion, bit of self-reflection. So I mentioned that I'm new into the role at BSI. I started in early July. And when I left Lloyds, I kind of deliberately gave myself a few weeks between ending at Lloyds, where I'd been for 5 years, and starting the new role at BSI. I'd never had kind of time off, if you like, between jobs. It was always your kind of classic, uni, first job, next role, and I suppose I was kind of fortunate in that way. But I wanted to have a bit of time off, and that time off enabled me not only to kind of spend a bit of time doing things that I wanted to do and didn't have to squeeze them into a a weekend, but it also enabled me to kind of do a bit of what I've termed self-reflection. And it got me thinking about, so why do I do the job I do? How did I land in a data career and doing these roles that I've done? What is, what is it that gets me motivated and fired up in the morning? And it's been particularly tough for all of us, hasn't it, over these past 18 months or so with the pandemic. You kind of really need something to get you up in the morning and to kind of keep going. I've been in this same office now and looking at the same screen for all of that times, and even transition between different organizations. So kind of what was it that got me fired up about a data career? And I kind of was reflecting through the organizations that I've worked with. And so healthcare, great examples in healthcare of use of data and analysis, and latterly AI and machine learning to really improve the health of the population. And the example I've quoted there is the latest one that was published a week or so ago about how AI can be used, may be able to be used to diagnosis of dementia in a day. And I've got family experience of kind of dementia and the family and the impact that can have. And I was kind of reflecting, wow, if that family member had known about that diagnosis, what different choices would they have made? So the fact that data and technology can be used to do that now potentially is pretty mind-blowing, really, and very, very exciting, I think, in my kind of self-reflective way. I know there are pros and cons to that. And then moving into the world of insurance, and so the impact of climate change and what we're all seeing on our screens now in terms of particularly wildfires around Europe and America, and how technology in particular can be used now to the scale of the problem is such that scarce resources, they need to be targeted to make an impact on the high priority areas. And I was reading this article about how technology is being used to, as it's termed there, to battle fires on the ground. So cloud cover, and shining a light through that and saying sending a message to the fire crews on the ground: you need to target your resources here, and this is where the real pinch points are. So spanning from healthcare to insurance, some really exciting opportunities about how data and technology is being used to deliver a force for good. And you have to forgive me, but you'll hear that phrase quite several times throughout this presentation. But then, of course, you kind of think about, well, there's also examples, and I'm sure we're all leaders in our data industries and organisations. It's probably examples where you've seen it being used less for good. And if you haven't seen it already, and you've got a Netflix subscription, I highly recommend watching the film called Coded Bias. 90 minutes, have a watch, share it with your teams. I have, because it kind of really brings it to life in terms of all this power in technology and data, how actually if it gets in the wrong hands and is used in the wrong way, the outcomes are not so good, and data becomes a force that's quite not in the way that we would all like it to be. So as I say, a bit of self-reflection, a bit of thinking about kind of what gets me going, and to progress my data career. So self-reflection, and then I was thinking about this presentation, and having done that thought process, it is, so what is it that I can share from my experience that will help people create that notion of data being a force for good across their organization? And it fell into two areas really, which is building a data culture, and then once you build a culture across your organization, how do you then use that to build and recruit kind of new teams, whether they're operational or whether they're kind of the data science AI teams. And I will just start this with which is my kind of my bias, I suppose, if you like, which is that I think that tools and technology are the easy parts. There's no shortage of technology firms that will come knocking on your door wanting to sell you the latest and greatest product from their data set. And there's no shortage of people that can quote lots of different R and Python and Panda and NumPy and Hugging Face on their CVs. But so hence my kind of, that's the easy side of things, really. It's all kind of the softer skills that you need to build that to use those technology tools, to use those Raja quirkily named pieces of software to the good of your organization and society as a whole. So what techniques have I learned? Find your data champions, build your community, be different. And by different, I'm kind of going to relate that to what I've described further down this, which is this notion of kind of being the cool gang that everybody in your organization wants to join. And you can be that cool gang by, kind of trying different ways of working. I can remember an example of where we used video technology, for example. We used, it sounds silly, but we used YouTube channel to start to share information between us. We started to use WhatsApp groups to share information across the organization. Being that pioneering way of what probably now is kind of normal and expected, but for then it was wow, this sounds quite an interesting group of people to get involved with. They're trying out new stuff. I'd like to be a part of that. So this notion of being digital as well, and having events like hackathons, whereby you essentially take people out of their day job. You take your business knowledge and you mix them in with data people, with technology people. You give them a set of business challenges to work on, and you use the business knowledge from the experts in the business, and you blend them with technology and data people, and you kind of get them to work together to solve challenges for your business. And you'll be, again, my experience is you'll be amazed at what that blend of skills, when you get them to collaborate together as a community, can very quickly solve for your organization. So you then very quickly start to create value for your organization, and you really genuinely make a difference. And it starts to build a momentum of everybody starts to get it in terms of what data means for the organization. And it becomes a true kind of cultural change piece where it's like, yeah, I get it now and I want to be a part of it. And it kind of demystifies the tools and the technology that often goes with the use of data at an organization. And then kind of from a cultural piece across a whole organization, when you're looking to build a team, and I've kind of focused here on specifically on data science team. And again, I'll repeat, tools, technology, that's the easy stuff, right? You need to ask yourself a question, particularly with data science. First of all, is your organization ready for data science? Because I asked that question in the spirit of, I know that because data science is seen as the kind of the latest and greatest innovation for an organization potentially, and organizations wanting to get onto that bandwagon, if I can use that phrase, not all organizations are ready to go straight for data science. And there is a danger by going straight in for that data science before a lot of the basics are in place around data governance, data operations. Data science will not succeed unless it's fed with high quality data, both internal and external. So I'd really ask yourself the question, as I have had to do, is the organization really ready to go on this data science journey? If they are, fantastic, brilliant, go for it. And if they are, then I would recommend that you make sure that you focus on real business challenges, that you slightly kind of don't go off piste. There's a nice blend needed between showing the art of the possible about what can do, but really grounding it in showing how it solves business challenges. And for that, you will need to collaborate. You'll need to collaborate with those business SMEs in the organization again. Those people that have been in the organization probably a long time. They're used to doing a certain job in a certain way. But they've got great knowledge in their head. And they're the people that are probably sitting there going, cool, if only we could do it like this, or why aren't we trying it like that? You find those people, you collaborate with them. And my experience is that you'll find value, generate value pretty quickly. Demystify, right? There's a lot of hype around data science, and I include AI and machine learning in the definition of data science here. You need to demystify it. AI is a massive topic. There are niches within data science, computer vision, natural language processing. What do they actually mean? And describe that in a way that your senior leaders across your organization will understand as well. Encourage diversity. I've mentioned about the risks of getting bias into your into the algorithms, into the products and services that you create. Unintended bias, pretty damn sure of that. But you need to, again, my experience is diversity of team, diversity of skills, diversity of background, diversity of objectives leads to really good outcomes. So you get that mixed use. Bag some quick wins. So if you're building a data science team, you're business focused, you collaborate and you demystify, and you've got that diversity, then put all of that together to identify the immediate kind of top one to three opportunities where you think, you know what, we could deliver some really quick value in here in 1 to 3 months. Go for those, because then you'll get your senior stakeholders on side. It will generate more budget for your team, and away you go. Your data science for your organization is really up and running. And communication is really important. What I think you don't want is to have a team of statisticians creating some beautiful, highly tuned algorithms, but then you're unable to communicate what that actually means for the business. Okay, all the coefficients, all the beta weights that are in there that I've seen articulated at presentation, and I've seen those senior leaders, the eyes glaze over and they go, I don't get this, don't understand what you're talking about, what this actually means for the bottom line for the business. Those are the key things that you need to build out. So hopefully that's been useful for you. And thank you for inviting me to present to you just now. Really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Craig. That was fantastic. Really great to have you with us for CDO UK. Thank you so much for your thoughts, your insights. Just a couple of follow-up questions. Brilliant presentation. I really liked how you gave us a bit about yourself and how you had some time to reflect into the next, the next role at BSI, and congratulations on that. But just to try and land on, how do you think, you talked about bias, you actually spent time talking about data as a force for good, but when, we all have bias exists in the world. How do you think as leaders across CDO, we can really start to tackle some of the bias that exists?
So I think there's a number of techniques. I think the first one actually is kind of what I described there as a bit of self-reflection as well, because, and I say that because, so I kind of know I've got my own biases, and for example, I'm generally a positive person, right? So I see, and I'm excited by the use of data and algorithms, and that means that I can be inclined to kind of proceed. Want to go forward with these new innovations, with putting the new systems in place, with creating the new algorithms, because I inherently have a bias towards I'm excited by them and the opportunities that they bring, and I want other people to be aware of the possibilities that they bring as well. So my bias is to push forward with these algorithms and these processes. But I've become aware of that. So then, and I was talking about kind of building teams and the importance of diversity in teams. I've kind of made sure that I get people that can challenge me in my own kind of positivity, if you like, both from a kind of product perspective. Have you thought about this? Is it doing that? Those kind of questions, but also from a technology perspective as well. So somebody that's capable of really quizzing what the algorithm that we're creating is trying to do, and making sure, to state the obvious, it's statistically robust, for example. It's been a while since I dabbled into stats, so I need those statistic, that's a hard word to say, strong people in the team as well to challenge on that. So it's kind of from a just a people perspective, it's getting those diversity of people and thought and skills to challenge about what we want to do and blending that all together. But then also there's a technology component to this, because we now always ask the question of a vendor that's coming into our organization and wants to sell us a machine learning, I think the latest term is kind of ML ops, right? To automate the process of data ingestion, multiple algorithms, and output essentially. And then, you could go with this particular algorithm because it comes at the top of the list as being the most efficient. And it's ML ops because it's literally it's almost like a sausage machine: data in, algorithm, output. But we've said that's great, but we don't want any black box solutions. We need to know exactly what's going on under the bonnet of your algorithm, and we need to have this notion of explainable AI. So there's a technology component to this, which is every single piece of data that goes in, every action that the algorithm takes, we need to understand what it's doing and how it comes to the conclusion that it does. So kind of this notion of machine learning and neural networks, for example, where some very clever people have said, even we don't know what it's doing. We're shying away from that. We really don't want to get involved in that. And I think that comes from my background of working in healthcare, where you've got very sensitive data, personal data, where it was drummed into me about absolutely getting patient consent to what you're going to be using this data for. And also from working in regulated industries as well, where in a highly regulated industry, when you've got regulators on your back, they want to know the absolute detail about what your algorithms are doing as well. So I think, there are steps to take, both people and technology, that you can put in place so that you understand what's happening and can avoid those unintended consequences that come about from bias.
Craig Silver, thank you so much for your time. It's been wonderful to have you with us. We really appreciate your thoughts, your wisdom, your insights, and your sense of self that you brought to today's presentation. So thank you for sharing, and all the best in the new role. Hopefully,
thank you.
All goes well, and we hope to hear from you again soon. Please do come back and join us on a future series. That would be lovely.
Yeah, I'd absolutely love to. Thank you for inviting me.
Perfect. All right. All the best for now. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.